Hello all and welcome to this tutorial again. So in the last few videos we have understand the measure of central tendencies, and in the measure of central tendencies we have seen all the three measure of central tendencies, which are mean, median and mode. Now in this specific video we will focus on measure of dispersion. So the three important measure of dispersions are variance, standard deviation and range. So variance, standard deviation and range are the three most important measure of dispersion. Okay, so here let's start with the value. Okay, so I will put the heading for the first part, which is variance. Okay, so just increase the font size for clarity. And here, so basically measure of central tendencies returns the center value of data. In the same way, variance or standard deviation or range are useful to understand the spread of data. Okay, so variance is useful to understand how spread out the data is. So to understand the distribution of data, it's very important to understand the variance. Okay, then second part, which is very important, which is with respect to variance. So variance has the number. Okay, and the main goal of variance is to understand how far the data points are from the mean or the average value. Okay, so variance is used to understand how spread out data is, but what kind of spread. So it suggests you, like it gives you the number which show you like how far the data points are there from the mean of your data, and it's very useful to understand the data distribution. Okay, so what does it mean when we have low variance and high variance? So here let's say we'll understand both scenario. When we have low variance, that means data is clustered near to the mean. Means most of your data points are concentrated just near to this mean. And when we have high variance, means data points are far away from the mean. So these are the key points we should be very clear about with respect to variance, because variance is very important to understand the distribution of data. Okay, so let's revise from the start. Variance is a measure of dispersion, and measure of dispersions are useful to understand the distribution of data. Here, variance is especially useful to understand how spread out our data is. Then, in simple case, if you talk about, then variance gives you the idea like how far the data points are there from the mean. And let's say we have two main consequences here, like low variance or high variance. If we have low variance, means most of the data points are present just near to the mean, and high variance means most of the data points are far away from the mean. Okay, so this is the theory we can understand about the variance. Now let's start with the practical implementation in the Excel. So here I have this data. I will create this fictional data. Let's say these are the percentage of students for the particular class. Okay, so here I will use the keywords as marks for a particular topic. Okay, and The marks are 30, then 45, 46, 34, 56, 65, 76, 45, 87, then 40 here, and one of the student, okay, there might be an issue with the number, I will use 40, and one of the student who got only 10 marks, and one of the student has got 90 marks. Okay, so these are the data, and one of the student has 6 marks also. So we have this fictional data which we can use to understand the concept of variance and standard deviation here. Okay, so just to create the table for this data. So these are the marks of few student. Okay, here I will mention student 1. Here is student 1. Here is student 2. Okay, just scroll down for all the values. Okay, so total we have 11 student. Just increase the cell size for better. Okay, and here are the students and here are the marks. Now let's see how we can calculate the variance. Okay, so variance is nothing but the difference of your data point from the mean. Means x minus x mean is the formula of variance. X minus x mean, then square of that difference divided by the number of data points we have. Okay, so here I will calculate the difference. Okay, I will use the short term as difference, and but before calculating difference we require the mean of that data. Okay, so here I will calculate mean, and mean is equals to, we will use the built-in formula of average. Click on average. Just we have calculated in the past sessions. Select all the data points, press enter. So 47.27, just like near to that is the mean. So here calculate the formula like this value minus I will approximately use that value 47.27273. Okay, I will use the same value. So can you see here first difference is negative. Okay, then just calculate the second difference just like that. I will try to calculate whether it's possible or not. So can you see we got all the differences. So with respect to second value, which is 45, so 45 minus 47.27, it's minus 2. For 46 is minus 1. For bigger values like 56, so 56 minus 47, it will be 8. So we got all the differences here. So these are the difference values. Then next term we have to calculate is the square difference, because we required all this term in order to calculate the variance manually. Okay, so here just use the formula, this number, then take the square of that formula or that number. So it will be just like that. Just scroll down for all numbers, and we got the square of all the differences. So again I will revise guys, difference is nothing but the value minus the mean value. So here value is 30 and mean value is 47.27, difference is minus 17. Here 45 minus 47.27, and your answer is like that. And square difference means the square of all these differences. So here we have all the values required in order to calculate the variance. So here I will use the formula. First we need sum of square difference. Okay, we need the sum of square difference. So this is your sum, and here just use sum function, and add all the differences, or can say the square of differences. So here we have this value, and then we require the count. So count of element, we have used the formula of Excel, which is count, and let's say how many data points we have. So here we have 11 data points. Now variance is nothing but the square difference divided by the number of elements, and here we'll get the original variance. Okay, and variance is equals to equal sign this value divided by this value. Press enter and your variance will be 721. Okay, so here is the variance value we got from the formula. Okay, now let's interpret this formula. Can you see this value of variance is little bit high value, or can say the extreme value, because we have the marks between 30, 45, 46, 34, like that. The lowest mark we have are 6 and the highest mark we have are 90, but the value of variance is little bit high because we are talking about the numbers between 0 to 100, but we got the values of 721. Okay, so variance is the square term because we are taking the difference of your mean value and the mean, and then we square this term, and that's why the magnitude of variance is very high, and in most of the cases it's not easy to interpret variance, and that's the reason we use the square root of variance, and none other than the square root of variance is what we call as standard deviation. So standard deviation is nothing but the square root of variance, and here if you take the square root, so we have the formula for square root. Double tap, click this cell and press enter. So your standard deviation for this data is 26.85. So from that we can understand the average deviation of your marks from the mean are by 26%. Okay, so let me highlight this data for a while. So here can you see variance is 721 and standard deviation is 26. So guys, can you see when we compare variance and standard deviation, these two elements are nothing but the similar elements. Okay, variance is the square value and standard deviation is the square root value. But which value is easy to understand? Here everyone can say standard deviation is very easy to interpret because 6 is the smallest number of marks and 90 is the highest number, and 26 is related, or can say this number lies between the range of my marks, so I can interpret standard deviation easily as compared to the variance. Okay, now from this value we can say the average deviation or the average spread of each and every data point from the mean is approximately by 26%, and mean is 47. So might be most of your marks will lies between 47 plus 26 or 47 minus 26. Okay, these are the approximate number. So most of your data points will lies between the range of 26 with respect to mean. So mean is your 47, so 47 plus standard deviation or 47 minus standard deviation, and that's the reason variance and standard deviation are the most important factors, or can say the most important entities in statistics in order to understand the spread of data here. Okay, so let's revise from the start. So here in this video we will start with the measure of dispersion, and in the measure of dispersion we have three main measure of dispersion values. First is variance, second is standard deviation. Variance is nothing but the square difference divided by the number of element. Okay, so we calculate it manually. divide, and variance number is 721 and standard deviation is 26. So in most of the cases variance is a big number because it involves square term, so it's not easy to interpret, and that's why we use standard deviation. So standard deviation has the same unit which our input data has, so that it will be easy to interpret. Okay, now the third value of measure of dispersion is range, and we'll see this value in the next session. Till then, keep exploring, keep practicing.